Think Realty Nation, it's your host, Avi Golhar. Welcome to the Think Realty podcast. Have an excellent lineup for you today. We have our first in-studio guest. His name's Chris Lazarus from Sellect Realty. So he'll be joining us in just a second on the wide-angle shot if you're watching this on video. Have a couple of things to do first. We're talking about Denver as a quick little market update, what's going on there. Then we'll bring on Chris, and then we'll talk a little bit about the 7 reasons to invest in single-family rentals. I have 5 right here. And this was a term that was coined by Robert Kiyosaki, who was the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But I don't think these are the 7 I don't think the 5 are included in these overall 7. So we'll figure out what that is a little later. And then we'll talk about the 10 top metro areas that are increasing in foreclosure. So for those of you investors out there that are interested in maybe getting a slight edge, maybe pay attention to that. This podcast is brought to you by Roofstock. If you're ready to buy your next investment property, then check out Roofstock, the #1 marketplace for buying and selling single-family rental homes. Featuring tenant-occupied rental properties for sale in over 20 states, Roofstock makes it easy to invest in cash-flowing real estate outside your local market. And to help you invest remotely with confidence, all properties are backed by Roofstock's industry-leading 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up for free today to find your next cash-flowing rental property at roofstock.com/thinkrealty. All right, here's what's going on in Denver. This is coming in from Colorado Public Radio. Going back to my old roots of radio, always a good thing. Good news, anxious home buyers. Very interesting. That's what the article is titled. Denver real estate has cooled a little bit. So, and I'll have Chris weigh in on this as well, but when sellers start to get antsy, when they don't have contracts within like a day or 2 or 3 or 4, what does that really mean about the market? It looks like that could potentially be an affordability issue. In April, the overall Denver area has dropped 7% overall sales price, and that happened in April. And it's kind of an interesting world to live in. Obviously, we know Colorado from legalizing cannabis, and I think that's an interesting play. Maybe that has a play here, maybe it doesn't. I'll again have Chris weigh in. Quote, "We do see sellers start to panic a little bit after a couple of weeks on the market if they don't have their home gone. If they don't have a contract, they start to flip out. No pun intended to all the flippers out there. Some sellers still act like they're in Denver's old market, thinking they can set high prices and force bidding wars." Let's see, does that sound like an area that you're familiar with? Probably. Kind of feels like Atlanta a little bit, even still. So overall, if you're not going to be buying at the numbers that make sense to you, should you play a bidding war? Absolutely not. Do sellers need to realize that the market also does need to swing a little bit to be a little more balanced? Absolutely. All right, that's my quick little Denver update. Let's get to Chris Lazarus. Chris, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Abby. Great to be here.
You got it. So give us a little background. Who are you? What do you do?
So my name is Chris Lazarus. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Sellect Realty. I'm also their principal broker. I had a standing sales career, sold over $30 million in real estate, took over the family company in 2015, grew it to over $100 million in sales. We've got about 90 agents, and we're a full-service brokerage. So we handle everything from working with investors to training agents and representing the home buyer and seller throughout the transaction.
Awesome. I mean, we talk a lot about investing, and we always have a good time talking about investing because real estate agents need to also start working with real estate investors, and they also need to invest themselves. And before we talk about that, you have a very interesting model that you are implementing in your business with the transactional brokerage and the FSBOs, the for sale by owners.
Yes.
Dude, talk to me about this because like you're telling me a little bit before the show and I'm like, okay, you got to tell me like actually when we're doing this thing, shed some light on what's going on.
Absolutely. So a transaction broker is a real estate agent or brokerage that doesn't represent the seller as a client. They actually have a customer relationship.
Yeah.
And throughout that relationship, the seller is able to represent themselves in the transaction. The agent provides the marketing capability for the seller to get exposure in the house. So in a transaction broker relationship, the seller gets access to the FML, or in Georgia, FMLS and Georgia MLS. which are our two primary MLS systems or multiple listing systems in the metro Atlanta area. And once we have, and then we syndicate it. So they get thousands upon thousands of websites that their property is located on. So extreme exposure for sale by owner.
Which is huge because normally they don't do that, right? Like what's the exposure right now for sale by owner? They'll have to go to the for sale by owner website or Craigslist.
Craigslist,
or
Zillow,
Yes.
whatever it may be, any of the big names, for salebyowner.com. You go there and you have to put in the property each time.
Yeah.
Now, our company actually started as having that service in 2007. I was part of Sellect Realty. We've built the product line. We've spun it off. It's now Simply List. And in the transaction broker model, what usually happens is there's an upfront fee that covers any of the marketing and administrative input of the property up front, and then there's a very small commission that's paid at closing. Okay. The brokerage actually protects the commission in the event that a buyer is working with an agent. So real estate agents feel more comfortable working with a transaction broker than they do a direct for sale by owner. Mm-hmm. And in the event there's no other agent, they don't pay the commission to the other brokerage. The seller doesn't. But what we've done today, I want to announce that there's no upfront fee. So
get out of here.
In the Atlanta area, real estate investors, if you want to list your property and handle the negotiations yourself, you can do that at our Simply List product, which is simplylistatlanta.com. You go there, and then you can fill out all the paperwork online. Mm-hmm. We list it for free. Mm-hmm. And at closing, you pay a commission to a buyer's broker. And then
now you have me going to simplylist.com. I'm highly interested in this.
So at closing, you pay a commission to the buyer's broker through Sellect Realty. It's settled at the closing table.
Yeah.
And then through to Simply List Atlanta, you pay $199 plus 0.3% of the sales price.
So not 3%. This is 0.3%.
0.3%. So it's $300 for every $100,000 you sell in real estate, plus $199. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. So we've done it for the past 10 years. We've sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate through this program.
Yeah.
Mostly investor clients.
Okay.
We don't have a lot of people that are on they're homeowners and they want to sell by owner. That market has actually shrunk over time historically. But investors are major customer for us because investors negotiate. They know their contracts. Yeah. And there's a certain type of investor that they just want to be hands-on. They've been burned by some bad agents in the past. They don't want to deal with them. They're just like, I'm going to negotiate everything. I'm going to handle it all. This gets them the exposure to do that. Yeah. And it also provides, they get access to great contracts. Yeah. Because they can use the Georgia Association of Realtor contracts.
The GAR contracts.
And it's within the licensing agreement.
And I think also if you're if you are an OCD investor like me too, you're like, I just want to control everything. Yeah. Right? This is another really good option. So they get, so it's 0.3%.
0.3% plus $199 at closing.
Awesome.
And it's free to list. Now there's other services involved in there too. Like if you wanted to list for rent, you can do that. It's $149 up front, and then there's a small back end charge.
So property managers could use this as well.
It's not really designed for property managers. Sure. Because if you're a registered property manager in the state of Georgia, typically you have access to the MLS and you have all the accounts. And but this is a small investor that may have a few doors, that's not licensed. They need access to more than just their property management software. They want to get on the MLS. They want to
they want that exposure.
They want the IDX. Yes. Which is if you go to joeschmorealtor.com and you find their cheesy picture and it says, "Hey, search my properties."
That's the IDX.
That's the IDX. Those properties are tied directly to the MLS system.
Gotcha.
And that gets them on that data platform. There's also right now a commercial availability for light commercial. It's a little bit more expensive to list on the upfront and on the back end. And then we actually have one level up, which is there's representation.
Awesome.
And that's $399 up front and then $0.65 on the back end, and there will be an agent to fill out the paperwork.
I'm looking at the website. This is it right here.
Yeah,
Simplylist.com. Pretty neat.
Simply List Atlanta.
So what was the inspiration for creating this? This is just really super crazy awesome stuff, and you're really making a lot of headway in a space where not a lot of agents want to even play.
So that's how our company was founded. We started with a vision in 2007. My in-laws did, Victor and Suzanne Higgins. And the vision was to provide something that the consumer wanted. And the consumer wanted options. So there's full service, then there was like the limited full service, and then we had the discount side, which was the for sale by owner, where there's no representation there. Once we had the kind of the structure there, it kind of took on a life of its own. We started growing, and we were run out of my in-laws' basement for like the first 5 years of the company.
Because that's what you do.
That's what you do.
Right? Like
my
it's
first
part of it all.
Yeah, my first office was a desk in a closet. So
That's terrible.
it was great. I loved it because I could close the door and like nobody would bother me.
Right.
Nobody's coming in the closet.
Right. How does that even work?
I got a lot done. So eventually we grew on to start hiring agents.
Yeah.
And through the course of developing and becoming better and honing our craft, our agents became really pros at their business model. So we took this product line, the Simply List product line, we created the new branding for it and we spun it off. Because it is a different product line than working with a traditional real estate agent, which is what we are on Sellect Realty. Sellect Realty is the first traditional brokerage in the state to be on the Forbes Real Estate Council, which you're a member of also.
That's right.
The company was recognized by the University of Georgia as one of the fastest growing companies, owned or operated by an alumni.
Yep, and is this, that's the Bulldog?
100.
100,
Yeah,
that's right, the Bulldog 100.
Yep.
Congratulations,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome.
We got featured in several magazines last year, and our agents are doing spectacular things. We just had one of our agents created the first Georgia History and Homes Expo.
Yeah, that's right. I connected with her. She's great. Yeah.
She put that on. Just our agents are really diving into the community, and the for sale by owner model doesn't line up with that. So it's a different product line.
That's fair.
So we diversify.
Let's talk about real quick. I think we've maybe another 2 or 3 minutes here.
Sure.
Let's talk about real estate agents working with real estate investors, because I know sometimes that can be a really big sore point for many agents. They're like, all my investors, all they want are just for me to pull comps.
Yeah.
And that's all I feel like I'm doing all day is pulling freaking comps.
I'm pulling comps, I'm writing a million offers, and I'm not getting anything.
Getting nothing. And then they'll complain to when, people like me will say, well, you have to invest in real estate as well. And I get it, right? Like you don't have a whole lot of time. You're driving around through Atlanta traffic. That has to be excruciating, right? 400 south, 85 north, south, 75 just is bad sometimes. But this is also the conversation with agents around the country. What are some of your thoughts about real estate agents working with investors?
It takes a certain person.
Okay.
So a real estate agent that's working with, really with the investor needs to make themselves indispensable to that investor. We have success stories with agents that have taken investors from doing, I want to say about 8 deals a year to now about 8 deals a month.
Wow.
And the way that they were able to do that was by focusing on the business side of the investor, tracking their analytics, really positioning them, helping with the marketing, making sure, moving from having every deal be a one-off deal to now every deal is a product. Every property goes in, gets the exact same service.
Yeah.
And really taking that and helping them build to the next level has made them indispensable to that investor. Because they've proved themselves to the investor now has them as an indispensable part of their business, and it's not pulling comps. It's not just writing a million offers, because in situations where that works, the investor is still procuring the properties themselves.
That's right.
But the agent may go out on behalf of the investor and make the offer for them.
That's smart, and I think the more educated you can be as a real estate agent about what investors are looking for as well. I mean, you talk about that white glove service. right?
It's all about the white glove service.
It's all about the white glove service. Yeah. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time in a market and drive it all the time. I want to work with an agent that's going to take me exactly to the neighborhood that I should be buying in.
Yeah. I mean,
it just makes sense
huge.
to me.
But, you know, to grow at scale, that requires marketing, it requires prospecting.
Yes.
Almost to the level of a wholesaler.
Yes.
But being at that level where you can procure the properties.
Yes.
And you can do the work and you can create the product line. You know, it's just like any business going and acquiring, you know, a product source, right? If you're producing a product, instead of buying the raw materials, you produce it yourself.
Yeah.
It's just like that for investors. And the agent helps them facilitate that transaction or that transition from really finding the deals from wholesalers or contract assigners, whatever it may be, and taking that to the next level and helping the investor procure those properties for themselves rather than relying on third parties.
That's smart. Thank you, Realty Nation. Listen up. You want to get in touch with Chris. What's the best way to do that?
Chris at selectrealty.com. There's 2 L's in Select.
2 L's.
You can find me on Instagram at the Unbroker. Have a lot of fun doing that. Or you can check out my podcast, which is Rethink Real Estate. So.
Wonderful, man. I follow Chris all the time on Instagram. We're always going back and forth. So
always.
Thanks so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. And we will be right back. This segment is brought to you by Narada Real Estate Investments, your premier source for cash flow investment property. Visit www.turnkeyrealestateinvestments.com. Think Realty Nation, I had a lot of fun talking with Chris and learning not only on the transactional brokerage side what he's doing, but also the fact that he and I are very much in alignment with real estate agents working with real estate investors. Now, let's get to a recent article on thinkrealty.com titled 7 Reasons to Invest in Single-Family Rentals Sooner Rather Than Later. And this article was written by our sponsor for today, Roofstock. The number one reason, and I was reading through some of these things, and they really have a really good understanding of some of these reasons, and I agree with the majority of them. Reason number one, single-family rental rates continue to increase. According to John Burns Real Estate Consulting, single-family rental rates have grown steadily since 1985. And even during the housing crisis of 2018 to 2012, rent growth in the U.S. has always increased. This upward trend is expected to continue at a national average percentage of 2.8% every single year through 2021. So, what does this mean as a real estate investor? Buying single-family rentals is probably a smart idea, and you can bank on roughly a 2 to 3% increase in interest rates moving forward until about 2021. Does this guarantee that the rental rates will always go up? No. Do you have to negotiate a little bit and make sure that you're in tune with the market and you're working with your tenants? Absolutely. So stay smart about that. Number two, single-family rental returns are comparable to stocks with less volatility. I really love this one because it's not only the rental return that you're getting, it's also the depreciation that you can take advantage of. It's the equity, it's the appreciation and the leverage that you can't get with stocks. See, I told you how to make a tie into the 5 things that Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad Poor Dad talked about. Number 3, local dynamics and local market dynamics are creating pockets of opportunity. I'm seeing this all over the place. I live in Atlanta. If I'm investing, say, in Old Fourth Ward or Kirkwood, people that can't afford to live in these neighborhoods are moving elsewhere. What does that mean? That one word that starts with an O and ends with a Y. Opportunity. I was thinking about another one that I could reference that would be a joke, but that didn't work out. Opportunity. Number 4. The cost of owning a home has outpaced the cost of renting. So in certain cities, and I think we did a segment on this on Think Realty Radio a couple of months ago, showcasing that it is cheaper to rent in some cities across the U.S. than it is to own a home. Very interesting, but you get a couple of, there are pros and cons with all that, but I'll go along with this one, but not like, I don't agree with it 100%. I still do feel like you should own your own home. Number 5, the future is bright for the single-family rental category. Yes, duh. Home affordability. Not everybody can own their own home. If you can, great. If you can't, guess what you're going to do? You're going to rent. And it's going to be either multifamily or single family. And quite frankly, if you have a family of 4, family of 5, can you imagine a family of 5 living in a 2-bedroom apartment complex or apartment in an apartment complex? Not going to happen. I know if I had 2 kids living in a 2-bedroom apartment in an apartment complex, heck no. Sorry, I want to rent a single family home. Number 6, you can't time the real estate cycle. Number 7, the sooner you get in, the sooner you enjoy cash flow, as long as you buy right. As long as you buy right. Hope you like some of those 7 reasons. I agree with everything except for the cost of owning a home has outpaced the cost of renting, which assumes that you should be renting. But I would much rather be a homeowner and then invest in rentals because they're folks that can't afford to buy. Okay, that being said, let's go to the 10 major metros that are increasing in foreclosures. And this is a study done by Adam Data Solutions. And as you know, I pull on Adam Data Solutions data all the time. They have some crazy millions of numbers of data that they look at on a regular basis. The city with the lowest number of foreclosure starts in April of 2019 is Jackson, Mississippi, coming in at 103, followed by Melbourne, Florida. This is Palm Bay, Titusville, Florida area at 106, followed by Sarasota, Florida at 122 foreclosure starts in April, followed by Vancouver, Oregon. I thought Vancouver, Washington. Oregon, Washington. Isn't like Vancouver on like that river, so it's split between the two, kind of like St. Louis, kind of like Kansas City is? I need to learn my geography here. I'm still working on this, okay? Vancouver, Hillsborough coming in 157, and then we're looking at Birmingham, Alabama. Come on, Birmingham. You don't have to start so many foreclosures in April at 191. Then Columbus, Ohio at 195. That's okay. I have a thing for Ohio. I'm a Michigan guy, so take that for what it is. Then we have Daytona Beach at 221. Sanford, Orlando, Florida, 397. And then the top, like this is astronomically higher. April 2019, major metro foreclosure starts. All the others are like between 105 and like 200. The next big jump is to San Antonio, Texas, which is 308, and then Orlando, Florida, which is 397. 972 foreclosure starts in April 2019. That record goes to Miami, Florida, but I'm not really surprised. Okay, that's the show. That's the wrap up. Have any questions, get in touch. We have a magazine called Think Realty Magazine. You can pick it up in Barnes & Noble. And I would have questions if I were you. I want to get in touch with me as well. So go to thinkrealty.com. This podcast is brought to you by Roofstock. If you're ready to buy your next investment property, then check out Roofstock, the #1 marketplace for buying and selling single-family rental homes. Featuring tenant-occupied rental properties for sale in over 20 states, Roofstock makes it easy to invest in cash-flowing real estate outside your local market. And to help you invest remotely with confidence, all properties are backed by Roofstock's industry-leading 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up for free today to find your next cash-flowing rental property at roofstock.com/thinkrealty. Until next time, Think Realty Nation, happy investing.